Howdy folks. This is the first of our little code along videos that we're going to do to get things rolling. The purpose of these videos is really to help you, just sort of think about a problem the way that I was sort of intending you to think about it. So we're going to start off with how I always start off when I'm going to do some coding, which is I got to think about the requirements for the thing that I'm about to code. So if we're doing an assignment, it's, what does the problem ask us to do? But for work or, if I'm making a program for myself or, a friend or something, I'm like, well, what do I want this thing to do? And I read all those things down into a little requirements document, and then I use that to influence the rest of my planning. So we're doing packet 1, problem 5, which is the Madlib problem. And so the requirements for this, on top of making it do the Madlibs thing, there's a few specific requirements. So the first one is that we need to make a function. And that function is going to have a couple of string inputs, and it's going to be type void because we're not going to save anything that it returns. It's just going to sort of print out the paragraph of altered text for us. I need to find a paragraph of text to replace, something that I'm going to use. And I'm going to go and I need to get the user input not inside that function. I need to get it in the main. So these are the requirements for the program. So based on those requirements, now I can start coming up with a little bit of a plan of attack. And again, I tend to like to use Notepad or a piece of paper, the whiteboard table, something to just sort of like get this in my head before I write any lines of code. So first thing I need to do is I need to find a paragraph and pick the number of words I want to change. For this one, I don't want to change a ton of words, and for the demo, I wanted to find something that was relatively short. So I want to make sure that I find that text. Second thing is I know I'm going to use cout and cin to ask the user for words, so I need to think about how exactly I want to do that. And I want to, set up a function, and I have to think about what that means, but I just know I'm going to be doing some sort of setting up in the function. So let's head over to code blocks, and you'll see that I picked a paragraph of text to kind of start us off here. So it is something you might have seen before. There are two parts to learn craftsmanship: knowledge and work. Just gain the knowledge of blah, 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 and we're going to work hard and practice. So for this, part of my plan was I needed to figure out the number of words that I was going to replace. And so I wanted to replace 5 words because I thought that was pretty reasonable amount. And so in this case, I want to go in and I put quotes around the words that I wanted to replace. So in this case, I wanted to do knowledge because I liked that because knowledge was going to get replaced in these other places. So I can actually throw quotes everywhere I see knowledge, that's going to get replaced. And I'm just doing that as a reminder to myself when I go back in, like, hey, these are things that I'm personally changing. And then so that's a noun that I wanted to have, and I wanted to have another noun, so I decided that craftsman would probably be a good one. I wanted to make sure I had a verb, and we're using grind as a verb here. Hard is an adverb that we're going to use, and practicing is another verb that has kind of an ing ending. So now I know that I'm going to ask for, even though my paragraph is going to have more than 5 replacements, I need to replace knowledge, craftsman, grind, hard, and practicing. So I'm going to need 5 things. So what are the other things on my plan real quick? I needed to set up the function, and I was going to ask the person for the words. So I got a little bit of a head start on this, and so I said, hey, I'm gonna set up the prototype for my function just to give me an idea about what that function is gonna need. Well, what are the things it's gonna need? I'm gonna need to make that function prototype. So that's one of the things I'm going to need when I set up the function. And then I'm actually going to need to define the function, which is going to involve formatting the paragraph properly. So I just wanted to get this idea of the function down. So I know it's type void because it's not returning anything. And I know that I wanted to call it Madlib since that's kind of the name of the problem. So you should call your functions what they're going to do. And then I know that it's going to take in 5 words, right? Because we're going to save those 5 words there. So now that I know that's kind of in my head, I know that where I need to be to start. So the first thing that I want to do is that I know that I'm going to get some collect some input from the user up here. So I'm going to start doing that. And I know that they're going to be things of type string, and I'm just going to give them the names of the kinds of speech they are. That'll be easier for me to remember later on. So I know that I'm going to have noun 1, noun 2, verb 1, adverb 1, and verb 2. And I actually declared them in the order that I did. And since they're all the same type, I can just put their names all on one line like this. Next, I actually want to start asking the question to bring these in. So, hey, cout, let's ask the user, please enter a noun. Put a little colon there. And I'm going to drop in a little cin for noun 1. Now, most of these are going to be the same, so I can do a little bit of cut and pasting. So I can cut and paste this noun and go for noun 2. I can drop this one in and change it to a verb, and then switch this to verb 1. And then I am going to copy that one and adverb, and this is going to be adverb 1. And then please enter a verb ending in ing. Perfect. And then that's going to be verb 2. So I pretty quickly was able to fill those out. And then the last thing I'm going to do in this main is that even though I don't have my Madlib function running yet, I do know that it's going to take 5 inputs. So if I want, I can actually say, I'm just going to toss all these guys in here. Because eventually this is what we're going to do, right? We're going to say, hey, function, take in these word inputs and do your magic. So let's just double check our plan. So we are feeling pretty good about, we just did this, okay? So we sort of checked off this one and this one. We're feeling good about our plan. And we made the function prototype. Now the big thing is we need to format the paragraph properly and actually finish that definition of the function. So I'm feeling good about that. So I'm going to come down here, and we start off by copying our prototype and putting it down here. And now when we make the actual, when we make our actual function, what we really need to do is we need to actually give the values when we, they come in here. We got to give them a name that we're going to use for the rest of the time. Now, I like to use different values. So like if I know what the stuff is going to be called in the main, I tend to actually make my functions call it something different. So then it's easy for me to tell what part of the program I'm editing, if I'm editing in the function or if I'm editing in the main. So in this case, I'm going to label them like this. N1, N2, V1, adverb 1, V2. They mean the same thing, but now I won't be confused. The noun that I'm seeing up here, I'm going to send it to the function. When it gets sent to the function, it's going to be called N1 while it lives down here. And that'll just help me kind of organize my thoughts a little bit. You can call them the same thing. I get a little bit confused if I do that, but it's really up to you. So now, what do I want to do? Well, I want to start filling out these blocks of text. So I have it sort of partially formatted here. So I'm just actually going to copy the whole thing down here, and then we're going to sort of organize it the way that we want it to have it. So we're going to use it with combinations of cout statements. And remember that the things in brackets or in quotes, we're going to replace with the various things. So like for instance, knowledge is going to get replaced with N1. So let's just start along. I'm going to cout. And then here is the first sentence. There are 2 parts to learning craftsmanship. And, oops, I forgot a T. And then I don't want to make like a big, massive, long thing that goes way off the screen, right? So I want to kind of keep it in my workspace and not get too long. So I have a couple of options here. So one is I think I want this to show up on another line. And again, this is just my personal preference to make it look nice. So I'm going to put an end line here, which means that I'm going to put a new cout statement right here. Then I'm going to replace knowledge with N1. And then and work is going to be like that. And then I'm going to end my line there. Okay, so I got that block of text. The nice thing here is, well, and then I'm going to leave a little bit of white space to say like, hey, I'm working on the next paragraph. So I'm going to do cout and say you must gain the knowledge. Oh, wait a second. I'll put some quotes around these guys. Let's change knowledge for some more of that N1 action. Now, I have a choice here. I think that I want to keep the same sort of idea. I need to put a space after each of these so that the word doesn't blend in. I think I'm going to do the same sort of thing here, where I'm going to end my line here, just so I can sort of keep things tidy. And do another cout. I have practices and heuristics. Perfect. And then craftsman is our N2. And then we're going to end the line again. Okay. And we're going to do exactly the same thing for these last 2. So let me do that real quickly. So grind is our V1. Oops, don't forget the quotes here. Knowledge, you'll remember, is our N1. And you'll see kind of why I used quotes to mark those things off. It's making it a little easier for me to type it in here. So you can see that, our sort of figuring out phase of this is pretty well handled, and we're really just doing a little bit of, sort of bookkeeping with that, which is nice. And you can play around with, making it look cool and, changing the formatting, adding, more or less words. It's really up to you. This is our adverb 1. And then practicing is our verb 2, which hopefully they did a nice job. And so then here we don't need to have the extra space because the period goes next to it. So we just close it off, and then we do our end lines. Cool. So there we go. We have typed in our things. We got our cout statements. I separated those with a little white space, but you don't need to. And now we want to test it out. So let's give it a run. Okay, so we have the screen. Please enter a noun. Well, taco. Please enter a noun. Chair. Enter a verb. I don't know, slouch. Enter an adverb. I don't know, slowly. Something that ends in ing. How about sighing? There are two parts to learning craftsmanship: taco and work. You must gain the taco of principles, patterns, practices, and heuristics that a chair knows, but you must also slouch that taco into your fingers, eyes, and gut by working slowly and sighing. Sounds like excellent advice. So hopefully that was a useful little video for you guys. It ties together this planning phase that we want to do, getting everything ready ahead of time, so you don't have to interrupt your actual coding. I had my quote already, I had it all marked up, and then I could sit down and not really think about it too much and just type out what I needed to do. I met the requirements of the program. Again, we wanted to make sure that we had a function, check. We had those string inputs, check. Type void, got the user input from the main, and most importantly, we tested to make sure that it worked the way that we wanted. So, good work. We'll see you a little bit later. Cheers.